How would you like to own your home outright? What would it feel like to never make a mortgage payment ever again? On our Mortgage Freedom series today, we're going to interview someone who paid off their mortgage through house hacking. What is house hacking, you might ask? Well, we're going to learn more about that today. Donovan is our guest today. Stephen is a money coach, and his financial advice and his inspirational story has been featured in Go Banking Rates, Bigger Pockets, and Rockstar Finance. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I like that introduction. Wow. I feel pretty good.
Well, you're doing great things, man. Let's talk about them today. So let's talk about this first home. How did you come across buying this first home in Miami?
Yeah, so I didn't purchase the home. So my wife, the smart one in the family, which usually is how that always happens. So she actually purchased the home in 2009 before we were actually married. She was single. We might have been dating. It was kind of like right in between. But yeah, so she purchased that home in 2009 as a foreclosure in Miami, Florida, as an investment property. Really, she was looking for really someplace to put her money and, kind of, we joke, but stop buying clothes that were for work, as she says. And yeah, started putting her money towards something good as an investment.
That's awesome. So you said foreclosure in Miami. So was this like 2010, 2009, something like around that time frame?
Yeah. So she bought it in June, July, somewhere around there of 2009.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
So she got a deal. So foreclosure city. Awesome. Okay. That's great. So you got a great deal on that one. And then I understand you had a second home in Chicago. So tell us about that, how you came across that one as well.
Yeah. So we ended up so we got married in 2011, and then we lived in Chicago for a year, tried to figure out, Chicago in general. There's so many, big city, bunch of different neighborhoods. And then we ended up buying or coming across a neighborhood we really liked. And we found a home that was a multi-unit. So which is, there's a lot of Chicago brick homes. And then this one is a multi-unit where there was two different units. So we lived on the top floor, and then it was a renter on the first floor. And then we actually fixed up the garden or basement as well and included that as part of a rental. So lived on the top, rented the first and the garden apartment. And yeah, we bought that in, I believe, 2012. So a year after our marriage.
So it's still a pretty good time to buy a house, during this period of time that we've had over the past 10 years.
Yeah, and not intentionally, but it was also a foreclosure. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So yeah, worked out.
So why did you guys decide for that place instead of why did you guys decide a multifamily for the place in Chicago versus like single family? Was that just how things are in Chicago, or did you say, hey, no, we want this to be an investment?
Yeah, I think we kind of went down the journey. It went all over the place. We started out looking at single family homes, multifamily homes, and I feel like we were all over Chicago. And in a lot of cases, I literally was all over Chicago, checking out places. So, thanks for my realtor, Mike, for going with us all the time. But yeah, we started looking, and then really what it came down to is we knew that, eventually we were going to be more involved in real estate. And then we also started thinking with the houses that we were looking at, we'd look at a $200,000 single family house. And then we look at that same $200,000 multifamily house. And then you're essentially comparing apples to apples, but now you have the opportunity to rent it to someone else and really reduce your mortgage further. And it just made sense. And I'm one of those people who, if something makes sense and it's a common sense type thing, I'm probably going to go with it.
Cool. So it sounds like you and your wife were on the same page when it came to picking the right house. And then how did you guys decide to pay down the mortgage? When did that come up? And how did that decision process go?
Yeah, I feel like everything, it's kind of, I wish that's how it started. And we were moved into the house and you're like, yes, we need to pay this off immediately. That didn't happen. But so I actually was I had a lot of personal debt. So I had student loans, the credit cards, all of that, right? And I was on my financial journey to pay off my student loans. I was very serious about it. And I was kind of looking ahead a little bit. I said, okay, I can pay this off but I saw a little window into and started reading a lot more about financial independence. I was like, okay, this I like this. This seems like a good idea. Um, and so we weren't making any payments on the mortgage that were extra. So really, what I did is I said, okay, we could pursue financial independence, and how can we do that right this second with what we have? And it ended up being the house and paying down the mortgage, because if we could pay down that mortgage, we'd then be able to earn more rental income once that house is paid off. And my wife also was on board with that, especially because we did have these additional funds, and unfortunately, they weren't doing anything. We were just making a regular payment. And then for, I believe it was 2 to 3 years, that money, I honestly couldn't tell you where it went. I wish it was, some cool boat or something that we had, or an extra house somewhere. But no, it was just like you got done and you're like, why didn't the mortgage payment go down? It's like, well, you're making regular payments. So.
Wow. And so just to be clear with everybody, you're talking about paying down the house in Miami versus the one in Chicago. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. We decided to go about it that way because of two reasons, really. Nobody hates your debt more than you do. And so my wife did not like this mortgage payment very much. And then also, really, it made sense for her. She was really on board with it, and it was a motivating factor.
Excellent. And it sounds like you guys were doing the long distance rent. You were doing long distance landlording from 2011 to present day, or wherever you were in the story. How did that go with your wife finding tenants from a distance, and how did that all work?
Yeah, it was, so I'll say she handled everything from, thousands of miles away. So yeah, she was her own property manager, finding renters, and we had some luck involved with it. Of course, putting out a sign. We lived on a busier, or that street had more street traffic, so you could put a sign out there and you'd get calls. That's not going to happen with every property. But also, her family was very big in that, so they essentially played, meet and greet. They played a little bit of the realtor for when they needed to show the home. They cut the grass for a little while. Things like that. So they were definitely helpful. Without them, I can't imagine. I can imagine it just reduced a lot of the income that was coming in.
Sure. Takes a village, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the house hacking portion of this, because you guys buy the triplex, which it sounds like in Chicago. You live in one of the units, and talk about what house hacking is and how you guys did that to help pay down your mortgage.
Yeah. So the simple answer to house hacking is you live in one part of your house and you rent out the other part, whether it be a floor or, some people do Airbnb. You rent out. So if you have extra space in the back, garage, whatever it is, like there's multiple things you can do. In our case, it worked out where it was set up where essentially almost like an apartment building is one way to look at it. And it was a brick unit. So we bought the house, did a little bit of fixing up. It was a foreclosure. It just needed some updates. So we did put money into it, and we had a different loan than your regular mortgage. So it was a 203K loan, which essentially allows you to lump it all together and make one payment before you ever move in and get everything done. So we're, a nicer kitchen. We tore down a garage that probably should have been tore down before anyways. Pipes were old. You find out that they've got old pipes and you want some water pressure, stuff like that. But with that, it also helped us to get higher rent. So our first renter that came in, great guy. They stayed with us for I shouldn't say stayed with us. They rented the first floor for, I believe, I want to say 3 or 4 years. Great guy, Chicago cop. I actually took the call to the first time when he was actually, there was a resume thing where I had to vouch for him and say yeah, he's a good guy. He's not throwing wild parties. He's not doing anything crazy. And so yeah, I'd like to think, it was part of it. It was all part of it. And that's probably one of the reasons he stayed, I would think. But yeah, so we rented to them, and we ended up also fixing up that garden unit just a little bit later. We had some family members and a little bit of contractors as well come in and make sure that was, adding a little bit of a kitchen and making the space work. But yeah, so we ended up having that rental income for both units while we paid our regular mortgage.
Excellent. So the money that you would receive from those two units, can you talk about the financials? Like how much of that did that cover your mortgage payment, and how much did you send down to Miami to pay down?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't think everyone does it this way. And so maybe that's maybe one of the reasons we also paid down a little faster is so we decided that we're debt averse people, we're risk averse people. So we said, no matter what, we're going to make the payments to our Chicago mortgage out of the salary that we earn. So my wife took half of, the mortgage, made a payment. I took half of mine, made a payment. And then since she was responsible for the Miami home, she made that full payment to the Miami mortgage as well. So she was essentially paying 1.5 times for the mortgage. And then we took essentially everything else that was going to be earned from the first floor in Chicago, from the garden unit in Chicago, and from the Miami property. And we took all three of those payments, and we added that on to the Miami, Florida property for the additional principal payment.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So you took all of the extra income that you're getting from your rentals, threw it at the mortgage. So if she bought this place in 2011, how long did it take for you to pay it off then?
So she bought it in
2009. I apologize. So if she bought this place in 2009, how long did it take for you guys to pay it off with these three rental units?
Yeah, so from 2009 to 2000, I'll say like 2013-ish, nothing really happened. It was just regular payments. And then when we kind of put it in, four-wheel drive, put it in fast forward, it took us a little over 3 years to pay off our mortgage.
Wow. So with that intensity, with that focus, you guys did it in just 3 years. That's incredible. And how much was the mortgage that you paid off then? I guess if you had to look at 2013 and say, we paid this much off in our mortgage in 3 years.
Yeah, so I know it started with $200,000. That's how the purchase of the home originally. And then I need to check the exact figures. In my head, 189 is the number, and then I feel like that's too high. So I'm gonna give it a range to cover my bases, and I'm gonna say 150 to 189.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you're, as you're saying, you got the $200,000 mortgage, and in the beginning, everybody knows when they have that mortgage, barely any gets paid off, of principal gets paid off with your regular payment. So that makes sense in that range. So at a minimum, you're talking $50,000 per year was thrown at this mortgage to get the thing down. That is incredible. Very cool. Very cool. So when you guys paid this off, and you said this was 2016, 2017, you paid it off?
Yep, the end of 2016.
Awesome. Very cool. So what did you guys do to celebrate? What changes did you make in your life after you were mortgage free in this home that you had?
So what's funny about that is we had these big plans, right? Because we had been talking about this. It's like, hey, we're going to pay off this mortgage. You know what? Let's do a big trip. Let's go to Italy. We're like, all right, yeah, you pay this off. We're going to Italy. And then for whatever reason, it was just kind of like, all right, good. We paid off the mortgage. Good job. Like, like high five. But we also talked, I will say, rather than a big celebratory, champagne toast and what have you in Italy, what we decided, it actually played a huge role in our lives and how it changed. So one thing that we talked about is once we paid off that Florida home, there was talks. We would then consider if a move was possible because now we no longer had, two mortgages and, we started to have extra income coming in. So what we ended up doing, kind of our life, got turned, flip upside down type of thing. And we decided to, we ended up selling our Chicago property. We ended up moving to Miami, Florida, and we now live there full time. It's a little bit of, are you familiar with Drake, God's Plan, by any chance?
No.
Okay, well, it's a song. It's a song by him. Uh-huh. And the idea is, God's plan, but we actually had a pastor living in our home in Florida. And through whatever dealings, etc., his lease was like, it was close to coming up, but he actually ended up getting a calling to another church in Washington, D.C., right around the time that we were even considering selling our property. And everything worked out. He ended up moving, I believe, a little bit less than a month before we moved in. And now we live in Miami, Florida as our full-time rental property. So pretty big changes. That was kind of our big, I'll say our celebration, our change in life. Instead of living with the in-laws and buying that Airstream that I could throw in the backyard, which I talked about, I wanted that so bad. We're very happy. We are living in Miami, Florida, and really adapting to this new life and new lifestyle for us.
That's incredible. So yeah, it was God's plan, not only purposely for your move, but it was also somebody else's plan as well. This was all coming together. So that's incredible. So you house hacked a place in Chicago so that you could then have what people might call your vacation lifestyle in Miami. That is very cool, man. So congratulations. So Steven, you're in this home in Miami. You guys aren't house hacking that one. You're just living there, just the two of you. Is that right?
Yeah, we're just regular people, just living in a house.
That is cool. So talk to us a little bit about the numbers for what happened in Chicago. So you guys bought this as a foreclosure in, I believe you said 2012. Is that right?
Yeah, so we bought the Chicago home in 2012, correct.
Okay, so what did you guys buy it for? What did you sell it for? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the $200,000 mark is apparently our magic number. But so we bought it for right around $200,000. But when we did the rehab, we actually put $50,000 into it up front. So our mortgage was really right around $250,000. And then when we ended up selling it, we actually got way more than we had anticipated, which was obviously a great problem to have. We ended up getting multiple offers, all that good stuff, and it ended up selling for $485,000.
Wow, that is awesome. Nice killing, man. You guys bought at the right time and sold at the right time. That is incredible. Very cool. Yeah. So what are your future financial goals now living in Miami?
Nothing but parties on South Beach, but gotta be able to afford that. No, I don't do that. But no, I would say our financial goals are, I mentioned financial independence. So we are in the pursuit of financial independence and really, really changing our lifestyle as well. And I say that not so much that it's this big 180 or this big change, but I want to get it to be more about where my wife and I can do things more together. I'm doing my thing, right? And I have a lot more freedom. And I want to get that more to where my wife and I together are doing that. And, and I don't know what that means with her work. I don't know if that's going from 60 hours to 40 hours or going to a position that's entirely different. So that's really our financial goal, is to kind of go from financial freedom, which I really think that's where we are today, and transition into financial independence, where you stop worrying altogether and really change your lifestyle a little bit to match how you want to live it, rather than how you have to live it, where you have to go to that 9 to 5, even if you got a great job. Do you have to? Do you have to go? So that's where we're at. There's always, I don't know if we're going to quote unquote retire early and what have you, but the idea of really just having that option is something I'd really like to pursue.
That's incredible. Yeah, you've created the ability for you to have the option now. You've paid off your mortgage and you're living in that house, and your expenses are probably a lot lower than what they used to be. And now you guys have that flexibility. That's awesome. So, Steven, there's somebody listening right now that also wants to be mortgage-free, that wants to live a life of options. What advice would you have for them if they wanted to pay down their mortgage?
Yeah, so I say this to everyone, no matter, it's the simplest thing, but I find it to be the best. Start with tracking your expenses. You just have to do it. And it's not that cumbersome. It's not, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to pain you. If you know that you're spending $1,000 on groceries each month, you can decide if you want to spend $2,000 or you want to spend $500. You just have to know where you are today, and then you can decide where you want to move forward. So that would be the number one thing. But just tracking your expenses alone isn't going to pay off your debt, pay off your mortgage. But what I would do, and that is really focus on the big three and making sure that those debts are eliminated or at least reduced. Now, we know the mortgage, you want to reduce that as much as possible. But there's then your car. I know we have a couple 100,000-mile members in the house. Yeah, so getting that, having that car for a longer period of time after you pay it off. I mean, our car is 2007. It's got over 100,000 miles. Works fine. Gets me to where I need to be. So reducing the big three. The third one would be your groceries and your eating out. And those are really going to be your three biggest expenses. And if you can find ways to cut that, you can then take that and apply that to your mortgage. And I would even say to what matters most to you. It might be your mortgage payment and spending more time with your family. It could be traveling. It could be a number of things. But if you really start to knock out the big three, you're going to make a big dent in the things that matter more to you.
That's incredible. I love that advice. It fits in so well. And it's not rocket science, everyone. It's exactly what Steven's talking about here. This can be done. It just takes a little bit of tracking and some discipline, right? So very cool. Steven, where can people follow you, connect with you, and maybe want to work with you as their money coach?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Well, even Steven Money. My name is Steven. Kind of matches up. But yeah, I'm on evenstevenmoney.com. There's the money coach page that's there. You can check it out. There's a lot of information. I blog there. I write there. I'm on social media as well. And, I'm primarily on Facebook is I would say my number one. I do some Facebook Lives and, some fun stuff there, or at least I'm having fun. I hope everyone else is. But yeah, Twitter, all that good stuff. Twitter is my chance to connect with really other bloggers and what have you. But I'm definitely always taking questions and all the good stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Even Steven Money.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I'm gonna give this.
There we go. It's going live, everybody.